Have you ever tried to practice like gratitude journaling and on the other side of it wound up feeling more like a Grinch? You're not alone. I've worked with lots of people in yoga therapy, in the yoga studio world, and also with myself. It's something that people don't always want to confess to. It feels like a confession because we feel like there's this perception that if gratitude practices aren't working for us, that we are therefore not grateful people. And that's just not the case. It's often just a matter of tweaking the approach. I'm Amber with Yoga How To, and today we're talking gratitude. May or may not have read about the benefits of having a gratitude practice, but I mean, it just makes sense intuitively, right? You hear about it and think that just makes sense. That's got to be a good thing. And it turns out they are a good thing for us. Gratitude practices can help us to increase our heart rate variability as well as our heart-brain coherence. These things help to offset the stressors of life and help us to recover faster from stress. Gratitude practices are even shown to boost immunity. They have the potential to make us happier, healthier people, and that is just going to ripple out into the world around us and benefit everyone around us. But there's a hitch. They don't always work. Not all gratitude practices work for everyone. And just as they don't work for everyone, they don't work for you every day. You change all the time. Gratitude journaling used to be the worst for me. I would try to write a list, and if I didn't include the same people every time and the same things in my life every time, there was almost a sense of guilt about it. It took me a lot of perseverance, a lot of experimenting, reading, and figuring out what works for me and understanding that what works now might not work tomorrow. But I have found some things that have really unlocked gratitude for me in my life in a consistent and reliable way, and I want to share that with you today. So let's dissect some of the things that can get us off track from our gratitude practice. Ought to be grateful. Did you ever hear that as a kid? Even if your parents didn't say it, I don't think mine ever said this, but it was just such a big cultural thing. Like, you ought to be grateful for this thing. And so there's a lot of guilt and shame kind of baked into the word gratitude for a lot of us. And I found that was happening with me on my gratitude practice is if I didn't practice gratitude for specific things, it brought up a little bit of guilt. And as soon as I'm in guilt, I'm not in gratitude at all. In fact, I'm very far from it, right? When our gratitude practice and listing those things, whatever it might be in a journal, thinking about and visualizing them, when it brings up a sense of tightness, a sense of ought to and should, rather than an open, expansive feeling in the heart, that's a signal to us we've gotten off track. We deem some things worthy of our gratitude and some things unworthy of our gratitude. So what's the solution here? Go with what makes you smile. Try to take out that inner critic, that person looking down and judging what you are using as a doorway to gratitude. What your specific instances are, they are personal, they're up to you, and they can be anything. Search for that sense of tightness. If you start to feel it, it tends to just get worse, and we go more and more and more down that path of should. So as soon as you start to feel that, see if you can find something that just lightens you up a bit. Because as soon as you start to feel that word should pop up in your head, it gets you in its grip and it does not want to let go. And you might feel yourself feeling worse after your practice than you went into it. So don't judge what gets you there, just get there. Remind yourself of this. No matter what makes you feel grateful, it's going to make you a kinder, more compassionate, more fun, loving person to be around. So even if you didn't list your kids or your husband or your wife or your partner or your whatever all of the shoulds are that day, and it's not that you're not grateful for them, but just maybe in that moment it's not unlocking things for you, then realize it's still going to benefit them and it still shows them love when you get there any way you can. So sometimes the specific things that we focus on for gratitude are linked to too many other things to get us there at that moment in time. For instance, I can be grateful for my home, but if I know or I've been recently thinking about something that needs to be worked on and that might cost a certain amount of money, it might bring me there into that feeling. So we also have to consider the specificity of what we're practicing gratitude around and how that can actually lead us down other pathways that we didn't mean to go down, and that again leave us feeling worse. Also, the idea of gratitude, sometimes it's not just enough to say, oh, it's okay, I can be grateful for whatever I want to, because that sense of what gratitude is, it comes from a background or current practice that is spiritual, that is religious, or even cultural, socioeconomic sort of thing, where it's like, don't get too big for your britches, don't be materialistic, all of these things. So maybe you got a raise and you're feeling grateful for it and you're excited about it, and that brings you to a sense of expansion and joy and gratitude. But your strict grandmother telling you not to get too big for your britches or whatever, is in the back of your head telling you, like, don't enjoy this and instead be grateful for dun 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 dun. That might be too deep of a thing to even mess with. And I think for a lot of people it can be, and sometimes it might come up for you and sometimes it might not. You also might have an almost superstitious feeling around gratitude. I've talked to people who they feel like if they don't show gratitude for certain things, then that thing could be taken away. It's almost like, I've heard it likened to doing prayers for people in your family as a child, like kids who had that practice, almost got that sense of like, if I don't do it, something bad could happen to them. On the flip side of that, some people feel like, ooh, if I give this attention, if I'm too grateful and too excited, it might be taken away, because it's that feeling of, oh, the foot's going to drop. And there's that level of superstition there. So either way, we're left not feeling really, truly grateful. We're just left feeling kind of crappy. Another thing to consider that might add too much emotional texture to a really specific gratitude practice is if you are going through a particularly hard time and you're having a hard time even finding anything to feel truly grateful for. That might mean that you need to do what I will suggest next. So for all of those where it's just too emotionally entangled, whether it's because of neural pathways and things that link that thing to other things, or whether it's the way you were brought up or anything else, 2 ideas to play with. That's 4. I only mean 2. 2 ideas for you to play with. One is perhaps the word gratitude is simply too loaded for you. There can be a lot of pressure around that word. And if that's the case for you, try with softer words. Maybe appreciation works for you. I know there's times where gratitude feels that way for me, but the word appreciation, it just has a lighter connotation. It doesn't have all of these weird associations with it, and it can free us up to still get to essentially a place of gratitude. The other idea I have for you, and this has worked really well for me, I had to scrap the gratitude journal altogether. The specificity of it, because of all these other things going on for me, meant that more times than not, or maybe not more times than not, but often, it just brought up other feelings other than gratitude. And so what I did is I went broad with it. I went into practicing a sense of gratitude, of appreciation, and of joy for no particular reason. Now, this one is deeply intrinsic to what we're practicing with yoga anyway, because the practice of yoga is about creating internal states that are not reliant upon external conditions. What this means is that we can generate a state of gratitude within ourselves for no good reason. We're not even thinking about reasons. And this is such a good skill to have. In fact, the Heart Math Institute has shown that by breathing into and out of the heart and by focusing on kind of a broad feeling of, I think there are 4 big ones, are gratitude, appreciation, joy, and kindness. Any of those can unlock that heart coherence, that high heart rate variability that is so good for us and that brings us so much more joy and satisfaction in life. This is yoga. This is about, regardless of what's going on or not, can I create this state within me? Because that's ultimately our job as yogis. I can tell you from personal experience that these external conditions, when we're trying to focus on those for our gratitude practice, such as, people in our lives, things we are grateful for, but they're still external. So the more we get in a practice of generating it and letting it be self-generated, and I can tell you this is so true, when I take the specificity out of it, when I start to generate it to just within myself, I start to get more grateful, genuinely grateful about the specific things in my life. So gratitude, joy, love, compassion, all of these things just start to spring forth in my life. They show up spontaneously, not because I'm looking at a situation going, this is a good thing, I really should feel grateful. Instead, I can be walking down the street and all of a sudden my heart just opens and I'm so grateful. I can almost get teary-eyed because I'm hearing these birds sing in the middle of winter. And it's not from a place of should. It's just that is the heart's natural state. So when we're tapping into it, when we're just getting there on our own, the more we are connecting with our true and our highest and our most abiding self, which is a state of joy, gratitude, all of these things, the more we tap into that in our more meditative practices, the more it springs forth, I keep saying it springs forth, the more it shows up in our lives in what seems like just entirely unprompted way. And that's where change really starts to happen. That's where we start to feel empowered and we start to actually become the people that we want to be, rather than relying on circumstances to allow us to feel grateful, joyful, and so on. Interestingly, I really believe, and maybe it's because our bias changes and what we're looking at changes, but the more we create that state of gratitude within ourselves, the more life actually responds with situations and things that actually make us feel grateful. So there's this really nice reciprocal thing that starts to happen. All right, so to recap, if your gratitude practice is not always leaving you feel great, one, look at, are the things you're trying to feel grateful for just really a list of shoulds? Can you find something more genuine? Two, if that's not working, play around with different words. Any internal state that is joyful, that is appreciative, that is kind and compassionate, it's linked to gratitude. It's going to lead you to feel more grateful in your life. Three, get rid of specifics from the outside conditional world that's always going to be changing, and instead generate those feelings within yourself. And as you do so, you will find more and more and more of those reasons outside of you to be grateful. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I am grateful for you, and have a great one. Please do like and subscribe.